the Son, the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. We celebrate the beginning of the new Coptic year, and we celebrate it by beginning remembering and celebrating the life and the death of the martyrs. And we begin the year with one of the martyrs that actually starts the New Testament, St. John the Baptist, who witnessed for the truth, and for his witness he was killed. When the conflict, the confrontation between what he stands for and what the world stands for happened, he gave a testimony. He glorified God by his death. Martyrs offer to God everything. They offer to God everything. They have a perfect offering to God. Martyrs, they don't offer money. They don't offer a sacrifice, although they had done all these things, but they include it all in what we call a Holocaust, the burnt offering, the total perfect gift of oneself to God. And that's why in the church we celebrate them. We put them in a very high place, and we look at them and read their stories, and we try to imitate them. But how do you imitate a martyr? Our church starts its calendar with the martyrs, and this is what you would notice if you study our tradition as a Coptic church. We are built on martyrs. Our calendar starts with them. So the calendar of different churches and different people starts somewhere. And I think it's one of the things that comes to mind immediately are the Jewish people, the Old Testament people. Their calendar, their identity started from the day they left Egypt, from the day they became free. They were slaves in Egypt, and they were considered part of Egypt. But the same day they got out of Egypt, they became Israel. And that's why their calendar starts from that month they left. So they left Egypt on the 14th or the 15th of the first month. And God said to Moses, make that month, it was fourth month, make it the first month. So that month of Abib, the fourth month in the old calendar, will become your first month. So if you ask a Jew, where is your identity? They would say, it starts with Passover. Our identity starts with Passover. And our identity, as I was saying this a couple of days ago, will be noticed by someone who did not grow up in the Coptic church. They will tell you immediately, you like martyrs a lot. Martyrs and monks to you is big deal. And we say yes. Because our history starts with martyrs. We belong to them. And we belong to the monks too. And there's something common between martyrs and monk, and then we're going to talk about it in a second. So martyrs make our identity. We belong to them. We are their children. We look at them. They are our models. So you looking around, you would see St. George, St. Damiana, St. Barbara. There's Barbara and Juliana on that side. St. Damiana and the 40 girls with her, the 40 virgins. We look at the apostles. All of them were martyred except St. John. All the apostles were killed. And we see St. Mina. And then next to St. Mina you see St. Anthony, the father of all monks, and St. Paul. And between both groups in the church, our identity is made. Martyrs, in their gift, they represent the total gift of oneself. And they say when martyrdom stopped in Egypt, the young men and women, some historians would say this, the young men and women in the Coptic church looked for martyrdom, and there were no persecution, because Constantine took over the kingdom, and Constantine turned the kingdom into a Christian kingdom. So the emperor The Roman Empire itself was converted to Christianity, and the whole world knew of Christ in the time of Constantine, when he won the war against Maximianus, and he turned the whole kingdom from persecuting Christians to become a Christian. So where is martyrdom? And the young men and women in the church, in the Catholic Church, said, there's no martyrdom anymore. What should we do? Historians would say they started thinking about offering themselves totally in monastic life. That's why monastic life started to appear in the 4th century. When did Constantine took over the kingdom? In the 4th century. So the conversion of the Copts from martyrdom to monasticism began at the same time as martyrdom ended. So what is in common between martyrdom and monastic life, and between us, who are the children of both? What's in common? The most common factor in all three is denying oneself. Denying oneself. What Jesus had called the utmost calling for a Christian. No one can be my disciple, he said, unless he hates his father, mother, brother, sister, even his own self. What does it mean, Lord? What does it mean for somebody to deny oneself or quote-unquote hate himself? Basically and simply, very simply, it is denying one's moods. One's moods. Denying one's inclinations. When a person says, on the very simple level, when they say that I deny the things that I like to eat, deny the things that I like to wear, deny the things that I like to visit, not to do this as a pathological thing. We do it not because we are sadists, not you say that, masochistic. The sadist is the one who persecutes others. We're not masochists. We're not people who love to torture ourselves, not at all. But we discovered that by denying our moods, we find God. We discover the entry, the door to the kingdom of heaven. I think of it this way, since I was little, that image comes to my mind. When you are somewhere in the desert, when you used to go to visit monasteries and caves and in the mountains, when you go into a big mountain and you're looking for a cave, it's a small door. If it's a huge mountain, it's very difficult to find that door, looking around. So, but that door leads you to the place where the holy men and holy women lived and dedicated their life to God, and it's a very sacred place. You feel it when you go in. Feel like your hair is standing on an end when you come into that cave. So that door, that narrow door that leads to life, is denying one's moods, appetites, something the world does not know how to do today. I was reading about reading chapter 16 in Exodus, where they say, as the Israelites came across the desert and they came to a place and they started complaining, why did you bring us out? They said to Moses and Aaron, why did you bring us out? We were sitting by the pots of meat, they said, and we ate to the full. And St. John Chrysostom says, oh, they learned gluttony from the Egyptians in Egypt. They learned how to eat and eat and eat and never get done. And they missed that. They missed the gluttony. And they said that the fathers of the desert would tell you, gluttony is the first thing that needs to be fought against. Needs to be fought against. Because it's the first mood. The basic mood. We were born not able to recognize any other kind of entertainment or stimulation but to eat. So the first martyrdom, actually, in my mind, is denying one's appetite to eating. To eating. That is how you become a child of a martyr. That's why some people say, complain, Abuna, our church we have 365 days in the year, and our fasts are actually 368. We always count them and find them more. Why is that? That's part of our martyrdom. That's part of our exercise to deny our moods. while everybody else, and I think that's why I think people get discouraged when fasting comes and don't want to be fasting. Because it's against the grain, it's against our nature to abandon delightful, tasty food and think that we can live without them. That's the baby. The baby, when they don't have the food and they don't suck on something, even if there's no food, they want to suck on something, and you give them the pacifier, they will suck on it, although they are already fed. That's the babyish stuff that we need to get rid of. So the first martyrdom is the martyrdom to delightful foods. We can celebrate fast by actually feasts, we celebrate with food. Every feast we make a big, very delightful feast and we eat. Not because we are trying to indulge and to kind of exercise our lusts in the eating and the drinking, but this is a celebration. We give the body a place to celebrate. But other than that, a person who is godly watches what he eats. That's godly, actually. We don't really take our fullness from the meals that we eat. We just leave a little bit. And this is the first exercise of martyrdom. The other exercises of martyrdom is all about the senses, by the way. When you look at things and you want to see things, you're always interested in watching something. And denying the watching is martyrdom too. You're always interested to see what's happening, what's new, what's going on with my friends. The martyrdom says, no need. All what I need is given to me. God is not leaving me alone. I better watch Him. I better look for Him. Do something. Are filled with the world and what happens in the world, you will have no place for God. No way. No way. How can you be a martyr if you are going to be very much friendly with the world? That's what the Bible is teaching us. It says friendliness with the world is, anybody knows? Enmity. Enmity. You want to be friends with the world and know what the world is about? It's an enmity. You be an enemy. But you want to be friends with God, what should you be? It's the opposite. It's true too. You want to be friends with God, what should you be? Enemy to the world. But what is the world? Lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, and pride of life. Martyrdom also is about position. And this is actually one of the biggest fights, and especially in our families. When we look around and see that we are actually not like others, has been unfair to me, and I feel this unfairness. Lord, you didn't give me what you gave them. I am not being treated well here. What's martyrdom there? I don't need to. Martyr would leave everything. I love the stories, and some of them is very powerful. That Saint Philopatir Marcorius, Saint Philopatir Abu Sufyan, he was a general in the army. He was a general. And then at one point he told him, the king told him, okay, now you won the war, you got us a victory, offer sacrifices to the gods that granted you the victory. He said, no. What do you mean no? You know that I can take away from you the position? He said, take it. I don't need you to take it. Here it is. He takes out his army clothes and throw it in front of the king. He said, I don't need it. That's not what I want. And so he says, that's not going to be the only thing you're going to die. He said, take my body, it's fine, I don't care. So sometimes we don't think like that. We think we need more. And sometimes needing more will make us enemies with God. We have no place for Him. And we despise God, actually. This is Jesus talking. He said, you cannot have two things that you need to serve. You need to serve one only, because once you have two opposite things you're serving, one of them you will despise, for sure. Martyrdom to time. When we think, I ought to use every second of my time to please myself. And there's nothing for Christ in it at all. So it reminds me of the virgins who spend all their oil and then come Christ, they don't have anything for Him. The martyrs saved it all to him. Most of them were young. Some of them were old. But most of the martyrs we know were very young. Saint Damiana was a teenager. She was 18 years old. About Saint George, also maybe early 20s. These were young men and women who did not spend all their life yet, and they have their lives ahead of them with all the potentials. They took it all and put it in one place, and they gave it to Christ. And that's it. Time. And we sometimes be very uncomfortable when we offer a little bit more time to God in a church, in the liturgy, or standing to pray or reading the Bible. We think we wasted our time. This is not the best thing I can do. I can do better, you say to Christ. That's very sad. I can do better. That's a bad idea. You can do better by offering to God something. And by the way, the world and your friends and anybody who's going to look at you and say, you're pathetic, you're losing your life. But Jesus said, if you lose my life for my sake, you will, what's the key word? Gain it. You lose your life for my sake, you gain it. You're not losing time. There's no time lost with Christ. Never. Never. He is the author of time. He makes time. Literally. He makes time. So you offer him something, he's going to have to make it for you 10 times more. I always look at this, the idea, the same life of the martyrs in the story of the widow that Elijah was visiting. God said to him, go live with this widow. And the widow was a very poor woman in Lebanon. She's a Lebanese. Out of Israel. She's not an Israelite. And it was a famine, and nobody has food, and everybody is looking for food. And she only had little flour and little oil. And and Elijah said, give me a cup of water. She went to get him water, and he says that she was going. He said, and make me a piece of bread or something, a sandwich. And she said, as your God lives, she knew that he's a prophet. I don't have nothing. I only have this little flour and little oil. I'm going to make one cake for me and my child, and her only boy, she's a widow. And we'll eat it, and after that we'll expect death, because there is nothing. Everybody's dying. They're all hungry. So Elijah said, go and do it, because the Lord said that your flour will never finish, and your oil will never end. So when she offered him the only thing she has, the very little she has, what happened? Flour and oil was created for her, was made. That's God. When the martyrs do this, they discover the kingdom of heaven. They discover an existence, a world behind our world, an existence, a universe behind our universe, and no one can enter there except if they have that attitude, that mentality. The mentality that stands against the world and says, we believe him, we are following him, we don't care what you give us, we don't care what you say to us. And it's always martyrs. The way of the martyrs is two things. Two things. Their life at the end, when they come to go after Christ, they have two things. Enticement, and one way is the enticement, and the other way is threatening. So they get enticed by something delicious, something attractive, something beautiful, something powerful, something rich. But they get threatened also by losing. You're going to lose your friends, you're going to lose and you're going to lose yourself. So they always do this, all the kings, and that's what happens to every one of you. You get enticed, the world is going to offer you something very beautiful. It's going to be something delicious. You will enjoy yourself, even for a few moments. Well, that's all they have upon, a few moments. But then after that, I lose. And then if you don't do that, they're threatening. You'll be alone. And that's what the world will say. You will be lonely. That's the most dreadful thing for anybody. You'll be lonely. You will walk this way by yourself. Nobody will come with you. That's what the martyrs would be told. Look at you. You're alone. St. George was alone for 7 years in a prison. They get him as an entertainment, by the way, St. George. They bring him out, they torture him, and the king will get the guests to watch the entertainment of torturing somebody. And they bring him back to the cell and bring him back every day. That's their common entertainment. And then after that, they kill him. Very lonely. But he's not alone. Jesus said it to the apostles. He said, You're all going to leave me at the time of the cross and let me be alone, but I am not alone. Who has God is not alone. Who has Christ is not alone. That's the biggest discovery of martyrs. We want to discover martyrs. Start abandoning your moods, your things that you favor and say, oh, I would love to have that today. I'm in the mood to eat fish today. I'm in the mood to eat chicken, and I'm in the mood to eat whatever. That's not good. If you keep following that, you will be in the mood to do sin, and it will be very difficult to go back. That's how the devil, actually the devil is called in the Bible and in the monastic tradition, the prince of moods. He knows that we are moody and we follow our moods, and he inspires what? He's not going to inspire you to pray. Never. He's not going to inspire you to read the Bible. He's not going to inspire you to go to church or repent. What would the devil inspire you to do? Get more of that. Food, more food. Pleasure, more pleasure. I'll give you some ideas to get a better way of enjoying your life. And what would it end up being? Breaking away from God, separating us forever, and dying. And put aside all the other problems, getting health problems, and spoiling our lives, and spoiling our physical existence, even before our spiritual existence. So martyrs, as our fathers and teachers, we belong to them. We know the way of asceticism. We know that. We have those fasting days, and we exercise that. We exercise abandoning our mood. And there's a common saying in the monastery, the monks tell it to each other when they see someone enjoying, something. Sometimes they say it jokingly. So they say, brother or sister, the nuns, cut your mood. Cut your mood means abandon it. When they see someone indulging in something, and say, just abandon it. Gently, meaning leave it. Just let it pass. Don't be stuck on it, because our mood is the place where the devil works. And to be a martyr is to discipline our moods. Let me say this in Arabic. So, بالعربي النهارده بنحتفل او في الاسبوع ده بنحتفل بدايه السنه القبطيه اللي هي سنه الشهداء، واحنا غير الكنائس كلها الكنيسه الوحيده اللي بتقرا السنكسار زي ما كنت قلت لكم، والناس لاحظوا كده ان احنا الوحيدين اللي بنقرا السنكسار في القداس. ما حدش تاني بيقرا السنكسار في القداس في الكنائس بتاعتهم. والسنكسار بتاعنا بنقراه ليه؟ لان احنا الهويه بتاعتنا تنتمي للشهداء وللرهبان، والاثنين مرتبطين ببعض. المؤرخين يقول لك امتى الرهبنه ابتدت؟ القديس أنطونيوس كان في ايام القديس اثناسيوس، والقديس اثناسيوس كان في ايام قسطنطين. ايه اللي حصل في ايام قسطنطين؟ الشهاده مسيحيين بطلوا يموتوا من اجل المسيح، لان قسطنطين قلب المملكه من مملكه بتحارب المسيحيين في ايام دقلديانوس، هو جه بعد دقلديانوس، الى مملكه ايه؟ مسيحيه. معجزه. فبدأ الشباب والشابات الصغيرين والناس الكبار اللي بيدوروا على انهم يروحوا يستشهدوا ما يلاقوش فيه ايه؟ شهاده. نقول لك وصلت لايه؟ في ايام القديس بطرس خاتم الشهداء طلع قانون في قانون الكنيسه، قوانين الكنيسه. قال لهم كده، قانون الكنيسه بتاع القديس بطرس خاتم الشهداء، اللي يشتم الحاكم عشان يموته يتقطع من الكنيسه. يعني ايه؟ كان الناس المسيحيين في مصر بيعملوا ايه؟ يروح يقف قدام الحاكم ويقعد ايه؟ يشتم فيه ويهينه عشان يغيظه ويعمل فيه ايه؟ انه كانوا كلهم عايزين يبقوا شهداء. فقال لهم كده القديس بطرس خاتم الشهداء، اللي هيروح يشتم الحاكم ويغلط فيه عشان يبقى شهيد هيتقطع من الكنيسه. عملها قانون. فواضح ان الشعب في مصر كان زمان متحمسين جدا لايه؟ للشهاده ربنا، كانوا متحمسين جدا. وبعد كده جه قسطنطين الكبير، وجه القديس اثناسيوس، وبعدين مع القديس اثناسيوس شفنا كتب لنا عن القديس انطونيوس الكبير. فابتدت الرهبنه. ايه الرهبنه؟ بقت هي الامتداد الطبيعي للايه؟ للشهداء. هي دي الطبيعه. الشهاده يسموها الشهاده البيضاء من غير دم، لان كل يوم الراهب والراهبه بيعملوا ايه؟ بيقطعوا، هي دي حاجه كبيره جدا، الهوى، المزاج. هي دي المشكله الكبيره اللي بتبهدلنا في حياتنا. يقال عن الشيطان ان هو رئيس سلطان الايه؟ الهوى. يعني ايه الهوى؟ سلطان هوى يعني الريح، ده الريح بتعمل شغل ربنا، مش الهوى الريح. امال ايه الهوى؟ ده الايه؟ المزاج. هو رئيس الموضوع ده، هو اللي بيتحكم فيه، هو دي المكان اللي بيدخل منه عشان يبهدل البني ادمين ولاد ربنا بالذات. طب ايه المزاج؟ قال لك انا مزاجي النهارده اكل ايه؟ اكل كباب. مزاجي النهارده اكل ملوخيه. النهارده مزاجي اكل بصاره. دي البدايه في الاكل. يقولوا في الرهبنه كده، يقول لك اقطع هواك يا ايه يا اخي. يعني ايه؟ يعني ايه اقطع هواك؟ وقفه، ما تسيبوش. الناس تشتكي يقول لك ابونا احنا السنه كلها صيامات. يقول لك حلو، لان ده تمرين لايه؟ لقطع الايه؟ المزاج. بعدين واحد يشتكي يقول لك ده عكننه، تعكير مزاج. يقول لك عكر مزاجي. عكر المزاج معناها ان هو كان ماشي في سكه وايه؟ وقفت. الشهداء قدموا لربنا كل حاجه. عشان كده لما ربنا يتكلم يقول لك، هو كملوا الحته دي، قال لك من اراد ان يكون تلميذا فليعمل ايه؟ فان لم يبغض اباه وامه واخواته واولاده حتى ايه؟ نفسه. فايه يعني معناها الانسان يقطع هواه؟ ايه الهوى؟ الهوى اول حاجه في الاكل، ودي ابسط حاجه. الاكل هو بدايه الهوى كله. اللي عايز يمرن نفسه ان يبقى بتاع ربنا بجد ويلاقي الملكوت، يبدا بانه يتكلم مع نفسه على مزاجه في الاكل. مش معنى كده ان انا مش هاكل الحاجات اللي بحبها، هاكلها بس بايه؟ ترتيب، بنظام. مش هاكلها وقت ما مزاجي ايه يقول لي. مش هسيبها للايه؟ للمزاج. هعمل حسابي. مثلا لما في الاديره بيعملوا كده، بياكلوا حاجات كويسه في الاديره، بس في سيستم محطوط في المطبخ. هياكل الحاجه دي يوم فلاني، وهياكل الحاجه دي يوم فلاني، هيصوم يوم الاربع، هيصوم يوم الجمعه. عشان كده بنصوم يومين في الاسبوع، عشان المزاج يتقطع في اليومين دول. المزاج لازم يتقطع في وسط الاسبوع. ايه تاني في المزاج؟ حاجات اللي بتشاف. لما القديس يوحنا يتكلم عن العالم، قال ان محبه العالم ايه؟ عداوه لله. يبقى اللي بيحب ربنا العكس مظبوط. اللي بيحب ربنا يبقى لازم في عداوه مع مين؟ مع العالم. اللي بيحب ربنا لازم في عداوه مع العالم. طب ايه في العالم؟ قال القديس يوحنا شهوه الايه؟ العيون، شهوه الجسد، وتعظم المعيشه. تعظم المعيشه هي المقارنات. اما اجي اقارن واحد بحد، اقول فلان عنده عربيه احسن مني، فلانه عندها فساتين احسن مني، فلان عنده شهادات احسن مني، فلان بيشتغل شغلانه احسن مني، عنده فلوس اكتر، بيدخل فلوس اكتر، انصح مني. مش دي تعظم المعيشه؟ عايزين دايما نقارن نفسنا باللي ايه؟ وخلي بالكم في ناس عندها الاستعداد ده بمنتهى السهوله. ما يقارنش نفسه بالعيان والتعبان والغلبان والفقير ويشكر ربنا، لا، ده يقارن نفسه بالايه دايما؟ ده وهو الشهيد عمل كده هيقدر يقدم شهاده ربنا؟ لا يمكن. هيفشل. الشهاده بجد ان احنا نبقى شهداء، اولاد شهداء، ودي الايدنتيتي بتاعتنا، ان الانسان يقف ضد العالم. وشهوه النظر تشتمل على التسليه اللي بنتفرج عليها ليل نهار قدام التلفزيون والسوشيال ميديا والكلام ده كله. طب ما ده كله محبه العالم. عشان كده احنا لو عايزين نبقى في ملكوت الله، زي واحد واقف قدام جبل كده، وفي مزنوق في الجبل ده، وفي باب صغير لازم يخش منه عشان يطلع من الصحراء دي. الباب الصغير ده هو ايه؟ قطع الهوى. ده اللي اتكلم عليه ربنا. قال لك ايه؟ قال ان لم يبغض حتى نفسه. يعني معناها اذا الانسان يفكر كل يوم يمشي ضد الشهوات بتاعته، يمشي ضد الهوى بتاعه. الهوى مش حاجات كبيره. الشهوات مش معناها الواحد يروح يزني، مش هي دي. لا، هي كل ما مزاجه ايه؟ يقول له عليه. كل ما مزاجه يقول له عليه. بس لما يجي ياكل حاجه حلوه، ربنا ما قالش ما تاكلش حاجات حلوه، اكلها بايه؟ بترتيب. اتفرج على موفي حلوه، اتفرج عليه ايه برضو؟ ترتيب. مش بايه؟ مش بمزاجي. واحد يقول لك مزاجي انا مزاجي جالي ان انا اتفرج على موفي، كل اللي وراه ويروح ماسك في الموفي ويقعد يضيع الليله كلها. هو ده شغل الشيطان. اللي مسك الحته دي علينا وبقى يستغلها ضدنا. عشان كده يسميه كتاب مقدس رئيس ايه؟ سلطان الايه؟ الهوى. والهوى مش معناها الريح. الريح بتعمل شغل ربنا، لكن الهوى اللي بيتكلم عليه كتاب مقدس ده ايه؟ المزاج. هو ده اللي الشهداء ممكن يعلموه لنا النهارده واللي الرهبان يعلموه لنا، ودي الهويه بتاعتنا. عشان كده لما حد يشتكي يقول لك احنا بنصوم 368 يوم في السنه، ويقول لك احنا بنصوم اكتر من الايام اللي موجوده، مش عارف بيجيبوا ايام ازاي نصوم فيها، تقول ايه هي دي السكه بتاعتنا لفين؟ للسماء. That's how we go to heaven. Glory be to the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit now.